Hi, everybody. My name is Joanne Van Coral. My mother was a Sheldon, and Phil called me up and said, need you to talk about apple dryers and the Sheldons. And I'm like, jeez, okay. He said, don't worry, I've got lots of information and pictures. Well, fortunately, I have some too. And we're going to have some light because I can't see my papers. Well, I'm not hooked in, am I?
You're not plugged in.
I'm not plugged in. Okay. Well, you know what? When it's time to show the pictures, we'll turn the lights on. How's that?
Whatever you say.
Okay. That's good. I can see now. That's good. Now I can see. Okay. As we gathered the information together, and I'm one of these people that, I'm not global where I can see how it all fits in. I gotta gather all my stuff together and then sort and arrange, and then it makes sense to me. And as we're gathering the stuff together, I'm like, you know, these guys really, really added to the economy of the town of Scriba, the Sheldon family. Sheldons, and so that's how I came up with the title of how the many generations of Sheldons helped the economy of Scriba. So that's the route that I went with. So just sort of basic genealogy. Sheldons have been here in America for an awful long while. William Sheldon came over from England to Massachusetts with the governor. I gotta put my glasses on. Governor Endicott, but they haven't really got proof to verify this, but his son John, born in 1630, and wife Sarah, they were in Boston for a while, then they moved to Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I've said that wrong, I know. Then in 1679, I don't think John got along with his neighbors very well, because he petitioned Charles II, saying that he had differences with the people there, they just didn't get along. So he and 40 other like-minded people moved to South Kingstown, Rhode Island. He bought 230 acres there, then he bought another 200 acres in 1693. Then the family ancestry goes from John to Isaac to Joseph. Now Joseph decided, and if you saw a map, Rhode Island pretty much straight across to New York State, in line with Albany, and to Stevenstown, New York. And in fact, that's where he's buried. And this is east of Albany in Albany County. At times, his name is spelled Shelden because he was a Tory. He didn't get along with the rest of the family, so he decided to spell his name a little different. Now, Joseph had 13 kids. This family can be prolific at times. His 10th child, Paul, was born in 1768 in Stevenstown. He married Frances Hall, and they moved to Russia, New York, which is near Poland, New York. It's above Utica. And they were so here we had this map I got over here. Here's Stevenstown over here. There's your border, Massachusetts. And then we moved over to, did we have another map? Mm-hmm. Okay. There's Norway. And
right where the blue box is.
The blue box, okay, there's Poland and up above. I'm told that it has maybe 1,000, 1,500 people live in that area, so it's not very big. And as you can see, from here to move pretty much straight across over into Oswego County is relatively easy. Well, he and his wife and family moved to Scriba. The wife Frances, they had 3 kids here. In total, Paul had 14 children by 2 wives. He did have a 3rd wife, but they didn't have any children. And the story goes on how they moved here. He bought land in Scriba in 1805. So this is before the War of 1812. He bought 100 acres for $3.75 an acre. This property was along Route 104 East, and from the maps and everything that Phil and I looked up, we figure it's about where Walmart is right now. And originally, Scriba went all the way to the river. And then eventually, what would have been his property is now within the city limits of Oswego. Well, he bought it in 1805, and then in 1806, he and his son, 16-year-old Paul Jr., his third child, they came by foot. Took them 3 days to arrive at their property. They cleared about 240 square acres of land, and they grew corn and potatoes. From there, they went back to Russia. Now, talking with Phil, and we're just plain assuming, they had to, while the potatoes and corn are growing, they had to have built some lodging for themselves and for their animals, because he went back to Russia, brought his family during the winter and of 1806 and 1807. And so the whole family came back, and they brought a cow and a pig and a yoke of oxen. And Paul remained on that property until he died in 1843 at the age of 80. So the weather around here didn't kill him, that's for sure. Now, Paul Sr., his 8th child was Abel, and that's our genealogical background. And I have up here, afterwards, you're going to look, a bit of genealogy. He had 14 children, so if someone says, I have relatives that are Sheldons, yeah, probably true. If you start with 14, and we're the 7th generation, I'm sure there's lots of Sheldons out there. Abel bought some property near where his father was, and that also would be within the property line of Oswego. They had 3 children. Abel had James Julius, called Duke, and Sarah, and Sarah's married name was Hill. Now, Julius Duke married Anne Hurt. She was born in Germany. Their property was on 176, which we called the Whitaker Road. Their children were James, Rose, Frank, called Buck, Hamilton, called Ham, and John. Oh, I jumped ahead, didn't I? I'm sorry.
That's okay, I think they can see it.
Okay, that's pretty clear. And Abel's property was here.
Oh.
From what we gathered looking up the properties there, that's quite a experience. I had been in the clerk's office. Okay, and now we've got Paul Jr. He bought property on the Dutch Ridge Road. And this was from a map of 1867. That's just our doodling. Where do we go from there, Betty? Okay, here are the handsome guys. Okay, here's Julius and Mary Ann here. And we actually have another copy up here. And we have Frank, James, John, he's the youngest, Rose, and Hamilton. And looking up some things, sometimes on the censuses and a couple of the, she owned property, a couple of, it says Rosette. So we're assuming it's the same lady, because sometimes on censuses,
Yeah.
I know. My grandmother was Cassie, and on a couple of the censuses, she's Cassandra, and that wasn't her given name, but whatever. Now, James married, we've got another flick, okay. Here's the map of the Whitaker Road. And so we've got Hamilton. This is, give it a name, Hayfly Road. He just is over there, and I think right now, right about here is that gas station.
It's right on the corner there.
Yeah,
Yeah, the gas station is on the corner.
Okay, and this was Julius, so his son is there. And then we have Patty Lake, that's important. And then Black Creek is down here. And Julius's sons were Lee, well, Ham. No, wrong, Joanne. Frank and James. And James's, Lee ended up there, that's James's son.
There's another extension of that.
Okay,
Right down
all right, then they keep going. And we have Howard, and at one time Maisel had property here. And Lee and Florence, and then John. This property was
O'Connor.
O'Connor Farm, and before that it was Belcom. Belcom, O'Connor's, and I don't know who's there now. Oh, yes, oh, yes. What is it?
Gary.
Oh, okay. And James married Clara. I never knew my great-grandmother's name was Clara. I always knew it was Carrie. Carrie Hale of Mount Pleasant, and she was the daughter of the Hale cheese factory that was in Mount Pleasant. And these are the Hales. And this is James, Sheldon, and Carrie. And they've got their names up there nicely printed, thank you. And we just thought that was a cool picture of them. So we put it in. Okay, what have we got next,
Are
Betty?
they husbands and wives, back and front?
Yes,
Okay.
pretty much.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much. I thought,
Okay,
so.
next.
And these are the first cousins, the Hale first cousins. So, there's Lee, Howard, Boney, and Maisel, and Jessie, their sister is
Bottom row left.
left, that's who I thought it was. And, so they are, and we have a couple of other pictures of first cousins, and the wives of the first cousins, which is way cool too. And, but James and Carrie had Jessie, she was the oldest, and then there's Lee, and Howard, and James. And actually, I always knew my grandfather as Mace, or Maisel, I did not know his name was actually James Maisel. Things you'll learn when you do some genealogy, cool. Okay, this was the original Sheldon homestead on the Whitaker Road. And it was, the farm was originally James and Carrie, and it was sold to Howard and Elsie, their son Howard. And then Howard and Elsie's son Earl and his wife Marjorie. It looks real different right now.
Is that Barbera's house?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Carrie and James had a house built. And we got a picture of that one? Okay, that's the house that my mother grew up in. Okay, and then it was Jacobson's. So this would have been Ronnie Jacobson's, well, Phil Jacobson's house and then Ronnie Jacobson's house. And I just remember nasty, nasty briar bushes going up to the door to the kitchen. And they had quite the agriculture enterprise. It'd be my great-grandfather. He, and we got that cow picture next? Yeah. Isn't that a beautiful cow? I mean, this is 1900, and that's a beautiful cow. And Hy Clark is showing, and that's another picture of that house. And along here is where my grandmother had those nasty briars. He was very well known for selling cattle. They also had sheep. My mother talked about when she was a little girl, there was sheep in the barn. He also had the apples, and they had the apple dryers. Are those the next pictures?
I think there are more family pictures before
Okay.
before the farming.
Okay, but James had quite a bit of property there, and his sons were put to work for sure. And he sold cattle to large cities, and there was a story in the family, for my family, on my father's side of the family. My aunt married Dr. Baldwin, who was the veterinarian. And after he got out of Cornell, the graduating class of 1903, went to Brooklyn, and he worked as the veterinarian in kosher slaughterhouses. And he was there for a while, and then he came up here. And James Sheldon had him come to the farm to verify that cattle were healthy enough to be shipped. And he had shipped some cattle down there, and it was came back to him, I'm sure by telegram, came back that they weren't good and they were not going to use the cattle. And James Sheldon put Dr. Baldwin on a train to New York City, and if anybody had ever met my Uncle Charlie, he was an in-your-face, loud, boisterous man that came in sort of like a charging bull. So I would imagine the man in his 20s was beyond a charging bull. And having him be told that he wasn't doing his job, that these cows were sick. My great-grandfather got his money. But that was always a fun story, and kind of funny because it was told on both sides of the story. So when my parents got married, the story combined. Yeah, kind of cool. Yeah. Okay, these are a few. This is the house that Carrie Hale had built in Fulton. This is Oneida Street here, and this is 6th Street here. And one of her sisters built a house across the street. And they retired, sold the farm to Maisel and Cassie, and they moved to the city. And I am not sure, these are grandchildren, but of course, you know how it goes, they never put the names on the pictures. And so I'm not sure who they are. This is my mother's handwriting, but this is Carrie and Ken, and it looks like summertime. My uncle was born in February, so I would imagine he's probably not more than 3, 4, or 5 months old in that picture. And that was just kind of cool. Got another one or two? Okay. This is Elsie and Howard's wedding photo in 1910. And Phil's got a very large one of that. But this, yeah. I don't know, do we have a smaller one here? I can't remember. Oh well. And this is the young family with Earl and James. And they all look so sober. And okay. Oh, this is the one of the first cousins. So the men, because this is my grandmother, Cassie, and this is Aunt Elsie. And which one? Phil, you gotta help me here.
Aunt Florence would be
This one here?
extreme right on the bottom.
Yeah, okay. And who the others are, I don't know, because the names were on the back. But we figured this was taken about 1917, right in around 1916, 17. Where it was taken, we're not sure either.
It looks like her.
Okay, Betty.
Elsie is Boney's,
House?
Elsie is Boney's wife,
Yes.
and Phil's grandmother.
Grandmother.
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
a little side story about the house you showed in the last.
Yeah, go back, Betty, if you can. Never
No,
mind.
that's
Put it
okay.
in your brain.
No,
No.
that's okay.
Here it is.
Right there. No,
Too far.
that house, they built that house in 1920, planning on retiring there. And our great-grandfather James, he didn't live
1
a
year,
year, and
1921,
he passed away.
he passed away.
Yeah, so he didn't really stick around to enjoy it.
She lived there for a while, and then came back and moved in with my grandparents. Because
It was sold out of the family in 1936.
Okay,
So,
I don't know who
whether
lived
it
there.
was rented in the interim.
We, you know, that part's a mystery, but, she moved in with her son Maisel and
Yep.
daughter-in-law Cassie. And because my mother talked about growing up, Grandma was always there, making doll clothes. She had a dresser. Talk about a spoiled individual. It was full of doll clothes. Her mother and her grandmother made all these doll clothes for her. Okay. There's,
Am I going?
no, you're fine. A little more, okay, here's the Hales, looking just as cheerful as can possibly be. This is a picnic. This is a reunion picnic. There we have Carrie. You know, you look at him and it's like, golly, guys, you couldn't smile in this picture.
Years ago, always.
And we figured this was the early 1920s.
And that photo was taken at that house in
Yes.
Fulton.
Yeah, in the side yard
Right
there.
on Oneida Street.
Yeah. Other than my grandmother, great-grandmother Carrie, I don't have names for these people. Got the original up here. Oh, they are on the back, some of them. Okay. Oh, and with that, just to show, there's, and some of the names are here, this is the rest of the crew for that reunion picnic. Okay, moving on. There's Howard in 1925. Don't those guys look so dapper? At least he's smiling. Unlike his,
That's Phil's father,
yes,
Grandfather.
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 Phil's grandfather, Boney, and my grandfather, Mason, were the brothers. And that's Earl and James in 1929.
That's my father on the left.
That's
My
Mary
father.
sitting in the back, that's her dad.
Hi, Gracie. I'm here.
Looks like Uncle Pete.
There was a series, they came to the house and took pictures. There's one of my mother sitting in the same position. There's one of the Ford, and probably one of the only pictures, unless Mary's got some, of our grandparents together. I never saw them together in a picture.
I didn't know him. My grandfather died the year I was born, so.
Yeah, I
That
know,
fall.
but I mean,
Yeah,
pictures.
but
have you ever
them
seen-
together, no.
No, I never, why, I don't know, but
I
whatever.
have a friend here, Bill Hogan, one of our old Scriber residents.
Yes.
And he has a story about Ken Sheldon.
Oh, we're gonna share that because a little bit later we get into Ken. We're just sharing some family pictures right now.
Good.
And this is Maisel at about the same time. Okay, now we're gonna stop right here because I'm going to get in, well, what originally the talk was supposed to be about was the apple dryers. This beautiful peeler, which I'm told weighs an awful lot, and if you want to see it in person, you'll have to talk to the man in the back because he has it in his office. And we actually have a photograph up here. This is a peeler that they would have had in the apple dryer. And we wanted, Phil and I wanted information about apple drying in and around 1900. Do you know how hard it is to find that information? Fortunately, we were able to I was able, through a friend, contact the Ag Library in Cornell, and they had a book, a 500 and some odd page book on apple drying, for heaven's sakes. And the book was called The Commercial Apple Industry of North America in 1921, and it's from the Mann Library at Cornell. Also got information from our good friend Byron Rowley when he was writing articles for the Valley News, and I have those articles up here if anybody's interested. So I'm going to go with information around the turn of the century. Some of it goes to the 1920s, but the information I got from the book said in the 1920s about half of the dried fruit was exported, and less than 10% of the fresh fruit was exported. Dried fruit was in great demand from California and western New York, having the largest proportions of this commercial sale. Wayne County was the center of this industry at that time, but since they're so close by, we're kind of moved in with it. Now, New York predominantly at that time used Baldwin's and Rhode Island Greenings. Home dryers in New York created a great bulk of the dried apples. There weren't a lot of large apple dryers. This was done at home. A wife and the kids, this would be like pocket money for her. So a lot of it was done in the homes. But then they still had, some apples that weren't satisfactory for drying. So the article said about 20-30% of those apples were used for vinegar and other byproducts of the apples. The evaporators came in 3 classes. You had your natural draft, which was the most common. There was the kiln evaporators and the stack or tower ones, and they were used mostly in California. There was the a forced draft, and that was a horizontal tunnel and a vacuum distillation. The stack types, where the air blasts of air are used to dry the apples, we kind of figured, Phil and I, that that's the apple drying process that our family used. And also it was pretty logical. And the apple dryer that was the Sheldon apple dryer, it was like built in the hill, and the back side of it would have been facing the mucks on the east side of 176. There's still part of the cellar stone wall there. New York State facts from the early 1900s on the apples. Basically, the book said there was about a 10-mile band along Lake Ontario from Niagara to Oswego. And at that time, right around the 1920s, 25,000 to 35,000 acres were used for apples. And, but they said the most were small farms. They had 10, 20 acres. The rest of their farm they used for dairying because they didn't totally rely on apples for their sole income. And it said that the trees at the time were planted in the 1860s and 70s because it took close to 40 years to have them being bearing at peak. It said apple trees bore the best apples or their peak when they were 40 to 50 years old. I have some article up here from Wayne County apple growers in, 1890 something, and they are preaching that the need of spray, the need of pruning to get your best quality apples so you don't have a lot of scabbing and other things. About half the apples were Baldwin's, the rest were the Greenings and Northern Spies. I love Northern Spies. I didn't realize they were that old of a breed of apple, but they were. I also had, just if anybody's interested, this packet of the 7 most common breeds of apples, and this was the turn of the century. 1914. That's 100 years old for sure. The apples came in choice, prime, poor, common, and fancy. Fancy being the very best, obviously. Said the prime were divided into 2 categories. They had the wood-dried prime apples and the wire-dried. And the reason they had the 2 divisions was because Germany had a law, they forbid any fruit coming in that was dried on wire because of the zinc in the wire. So they had to come, all of your apples when they were shipped had to come with a chemist certifying that they'd been dried on wood. We know that the Sheldons shipped to Europe, definitely to France. Now, thank you, Byron, for giving some information. And he, in his article, was stating that first the apples had to be peeled, cored, and sliced. And that was the peeler that did the peeling and the pouring. Then they, you had to have quite a few people doing this, and I think Phil said that his grandma Elsie had many cuts on her fingers running that machine. It was a crank deal.
Yep.
The apples were placed on prongs, turned with a crank. The apples were peeled and cored. Then they were dropped onto a table where there were at least 2 women, and they would do some fine pruning or trimming. And it said that in some dryers this was piecework, and if you did piecework in order to make a decent wage for the day, you had to do 50 to 60 bushel of apples. Yeah, in a day, yeah. And so now they're placed on slotted boxes, and then they're put into a brimstone bleacher, and this was to prevent browning, because we all know apples brown real easy. And now they are being, after that process, now they're sliced. And they are put on large racks, sort of a tower. And so you'd be placing the rack on the bottom, and then it would slowly go up the tower. And this is where the air would be blasting on them. And it said that it took about 15 minutes to go from the bottom to the top. And then it was added to other trays. After that, there was a curing process, but Byron didn't tell me what they did for the curing process, so I'm clueless there. After they were cured, they were placed in boxes, typically 50-pound boxes, and it said that they tried to have the more select, or the fancier apples, put it on the top, and they said that process was called facing, so the nicest apples would be on top. Usually a furnace was used, so obviously you had to cut wood. Obviously you had to have someone making wooden boxes, because it sounded like these boxes being shipped were shipped. In some places they said they were shipped in barrels, but Byron's article said they were shipped in boxes, so I'm assuming this area used boxes. At this time, now dryers continued until about the 1930s. 1932, there was an extremely severe winter that killed the bulk of the trees. So, that put you out of business. So, but from best Phil and I can figure out, we think it was the mid-19-teens that the Sheldon apple dryer burned, because we have pictures of the people working. And as you can see, they really did have quite a few people working. They are in front of 176. This is Carrie down here with her good old stern and her very dark eyes. Howard or Boney, and my grandfather Maisel, and Mary, you've got your grandfather's eyes. Oh, very much. And so as you can see, many women were used, and this is Elsie, right?
Yes.
That's Elsie Howard's.
They were not married yet.
Not married yet.
No.
Okay, that's 1909. This is 1911. There's not as many, but this is your father, Earl.
Elsie's holding my father.
Yeah.
He was just.
This is James, and I have no idea why he's standing way off to the side. Now, Carrie doesn't mind sitting with the help, but he's off to the side. But from what we know, she basically ran it. The way my mother spoke, that she run the show for the apple drying.
I think she ran the show for about everything.
Yeah, he might have taken care of the cows machine and the bartering.
Standing off to the side.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
this
he's on the
man
road
right
a lot,
here
too.
is Fred Fanning, and if anybody in the town of Vonley knows Lee and Fay Fanning, that's their dad, right there. And we'll flip and you'll see, okay, here now, there's Maisel. He's joined the crowd. But I'm not,
They're seated.
yeah, they're seated in front, but I'm not seeing Howard, and I'm sure Elsie's there, but I'm not
I
seeing
don't
her
think they're in
either.
that photo.
What?
I don't think they're in that photo, but notice 176.
That's it. Literally a cow pat, that's it. But this picture we were pleased about gave you a good idea of the size of the apple dryer. Because right about here, it drops off. I mean, that's that bank that drops right off. And this is pretty much in front of the Sheldon homestead.
Yeah. And you'll notice the chimney, so obviously there were
Yeah.
furnaces.
There, and I don't know, I thought that was just a pole. I don't think it's a chimney.
Probably is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you know Fay Fanning? And this, see, again, there's that pole, and you can see just a little bit of the apple dryer here and here.
They're on a wagon, aren't they?
I thought so. These are crates down here. And, but still, what I think is one of the nice things about these pictures is we so often see pictures of way over 100 years ago. They're always dressed in nice clothing. You don't know what they looked like in everyday dress. So I always thought that was really, really nice. And of course, the women had aprons and such. And, but, you know, a lot of young people, this was a, you know, good, and I think it was a very short-termed, like a month, maybe 2 months, and the process was done. But we kind of think it was late in the fall, because that's snow, and there's like snow down here too.
They were having a lot of fun.
Yes, they were, there's no leaves on the trees. So, yeah, I mean, at least the women are having fun, I don't know about the men. So, okay, this is Ray Dunsmore cider mill, and this would have been in town of Vonley. And according to the article, he was using his apple, the tower, they called, and he's drying grapes. He has grapes, and according to the article, that was, he was pressing grapes. Moving on, muck farming, new venture. Phil's grandfather, my grandfather, decided, and I'm really not sure what made them decide to start draining the swamps, putting bog shoes on these horses, and clearing the land. Okay, Phil, help me out.
I believe it was through James's travels. James did a bunch of traveling
Oh,
because
yeah.
he bought cattle, and anyway, he saw that muckland was being developed in other areas,
Okay,
and he realized, hey, we got a lot of land that we own that could be developed. I also have a hunch that the apple dryer burned down,
now we need
so they were
something.
looking for new means of income,
And he is,
so he turned those two boys loose,
yeah,
go clear land.
yeah. Lee was a little bit older and had a farm just to the north of him at that point. Yeah.
Yes.
So, according to my mother, my grandfather was in his late teens when he started doing this. As we probably all know, muck is very black, very rich soil. It's basically biodegraded wood and plant material. And here, where we are, it's the land, the muck land is sort of in a small valley between drumlins left by the glacier. So this is very deep muck. And Phil and I were talking, and he said the rule of thumb is you lose an inch of soil a year. And that muck was cleared 1910, so we're talking over 100 years. They've lost at least 9 to 10 feet of soil. So they'd be like, well, not quite as deep as this room, but close to it. So that soil is gone, and the muck is still black. Because when a muck is losing its fertility or whatever, it starts being gray. So if you see, I know when you come off the Churchill Road, there's that muck there, there's some areas of gray. So that is like losing its strength. And so Howard and Boney and Mace started clearing land. The first was just across the road from the house. Well, James being the man of sales there, that's exactly what he did. The boys cleared the land and he promptly sold it. And so Boney bought property down near Black Creek. And Mace eventually cleared land west of 176, but most of the land on the east side, Father sold. This is a picture of Boney, 1922-23, dynamiting, oh God, would he be in trouble today, and rerouted Black Creek to drain the Patty Lake watershed. And in a second, we'll have a map of, okay, changing the direction of Black Creek. You've got this drumlin here, and water had to go around it, and it wasn't working very well, so Boney dynamited through the drumlin, therefore changing the Patty Lake. And they had an awful lot of rain there in the
Yeah, I'll
early
give you a
20s.
little history.
Do that, please.
Yeah, in June of 1922, in a 5-day period, there were 2 different rainstorms. Each rainstorm represented about 5 inches each. So you had 10 inches of rain in
Added
a
to the storm.
5-day period. And also, I checked I pay attention to the Syracuse Post-Standard records of rainfall for every month. The month of June in 1922 holds the record.
Still.
It's almost 16 inches of rain in the 1 month. But anyway, in that 5-day period, that muckland on the east side of that drumlin, over,
East would be here.
no, east,
Up to the top.
east would be.
Oh, east,
Yeah,
okay.
right there, that muckland, that Patty Lake area was like one huge lake. I mean, it was totally underwater. And so they had contemplated doing this for a few years, going through that hill, but that forced the issue. They said, we have to do it. So, and it was not an easy task. That's a big hill that they broke through.
Well, you
And,
can see from the previous picture, he
Yeah.
looks like this big.
and there were other complications. The farmer on the west side of that hill said, hey, wait a minute. I don't want that water coming over on me. So he got an injunction to stop.
There he is.
He got an injunction to cease and desist. But my grandfather and the 3 other growers over there took it to court. I believe it was settled in Onondaga County, which I don't understand, but they won the lawsuit. And so they were given permission to go ahead with the project.
And the dynamiting, the stories go in the neighborhood, really shook the
Yeah.
houses. They really blasted away.
But had that project not been done, that farming area, that muckland in that Petty Lake area would have been abandoned because there was too much risk involved with the drainage such as it was prior to this project.
Okay. Betty, we're moving on. Okay, so that's basically how they came down through. And then this is muckland east and west of the Patty Lake Road. And, which is,
And this is just north, or just east of.
it's on 176 Whitaker Road, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and Phil put this in just because we thought it was a way cool bridge, that people actually traveled over that in vehicles. Yeah.
That was the bridge on 176 prior to 1929.
Okay. Now, this is 1964 aerial view, and isn't that beautiful, though?
I think my dad took that picture. Yeah, I think he took it, yeah. When we'd go up flying, it was always extremely exciting. Let's look at the lettuce.
You did take it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
We've seen it on the slideshow
Glad you came,
many times.
Mary.
Me too. This is
Yeah.
fun.
Filling us in here. It takes a community here to do this. All right.
Okay, next.
Yep. Okay. Now, this is Big Boston. I have, afterwards, if folks want to come up, we have pictures, but I put together for the Vonley Historical Muck Book, which has been greatly added to, but in it is a lot of pictures of Maisel and Boney's mucks. And just to show you how stupid I am, well, I'll tell them and keep going, honey. Okay, aren't those beautiful onions? It's about 1940. And, today's onions could envy them,
Absolutely.
White shirts. And notice, tie, flip that on.
I'll try. There.
Okay. My grandmother did tons of ironing because my grandfather wore only a white shirt on the muck. He came home for lunch and he put on another white shirt, and I'm sure his son did the same. I don't know if he did that in the later years, but when he would, yeah. So can you imagine in the 1920s and 30s ironing a white shirt to be, yeah. No, not what I want to do.
Phil, you wore white
Keep going,
t-shirts
honey.
forever.
Okay, Phil's got the original up here. And this is Howard and, that is,
Yeah.
what would you call that? All I can think of is a corn crib, and
It
it's
was
not a corn crib.
it was an onion drying crib.
Okay, so it would be like a corn crib.
Yeah, it was about 100 feet long. And I have no idea how wide it was. The remnant was still there when I was a kid, but it hadn't been used in quite a
Okay.
few years.
And then we have Earl with his crates of onions, and Phil and his beautiful onions. I know, isn't that nice to have that? And they're all smiling, which is good.
Good harvest.
Good harvest, this is good. Okay, Dale Young, property extension agent. And this, how big was that photo? You said it was on display at the state fair for like 10 years.
Yeah, I didn't bring it, did I, Joanne?
No.
It was large, probably 2 feet by 4 feet at least.
Okay. We're ready, I think. Okay, and Mount Edna, this is the Sheldon, and they are in with the Hales. I believe it's a 12-plot piece because there's Hale people buried there also. That's where my grandparents are buried, and that's where James and Carrie are.
That's the last one.
That's the last one, okay. And back to the story, we are not sure, Phil and I tried getting our head around it. In the mid-1930s, about the time that Kenny went off to Cornell Ag School, we don't know if it was before he went to Cornell or after he went to Cornell. Cornell, of course, is always doing experimental crops, and they came up with this new crop, iceberg. My mother was always very proud that her father and her brother grew the first experimental iceberg lettuce here in Oswego County. Me being a kid stupidly said, well, what kind of lettuce did you grow for? And she just looked at me, well, of course, it was romaine and Boston, and I'm like, oh, okay. Because growing up for me, all I saw when you drove around Oswego County was iceberg lettuce. And one of the things about the iceberg lettuce, and other lettuces too, on this muck that, really heats up in the summertime, in a matter of 55 to 60 days, you've got a crop. So if you really got a good year, you can get 2 crops off of your muck. And that was one of the things that was very encouraging. Now, Mace's son, Ken, he had muck land, but in his heart, he was a mechanic, inventor. That's where his talent really, his heart really was. And Phil sat down and asked me to fill in. Mary, and you can make changes as I read. Ken was a graduate of Cornell, 1939. And 1941, he married Jane Orr, and they purchased the Crum Muck Farm and proceeded to build a house. And while they were building their house, they lived with Mace and Cassie, so there was quite the household there. At that point, I think Grandma Carrie had passed away, right in about there someplace. I'd have to look up. Okay, and in the late 40, he liked to fabricate, he fabricated the first roller onion topper harvester in the mid-40s. And then he became a franchise dealer with quite a few specialized vegetable equipment. And there was quite a few else, Chalmer, Lamb Brothers, Iron Age, Hardy, Myers, just to name a few. Boggs Equipment Corp. In Haynes, reread that one. But what he liked to do is make changes, adapt them. A farmer would come to him, well, I bought this piece of equipment, I want some adapting. Tonight, I heard one person say, well, every time I stopped in, he was always welding something. Very adaptable both hands. So this was something that he prided himself. It didn't make any difference if he went in with his left hand or his right hand. He did business in other areas, Orange County, Alba, New York, Prattsburgh, Montreal, Canada. I know he used to go into Vermont too. He made equipment himself, he modified, sold equipment, and in 1980, Ken reinvented the onion undercutting machine. This new concept that he came up with resulted in a huge beneficial effects on the onion growing business in our area. The old style onion cutters would take as long as 4 hours to do an acre of onions. Well, Ken's method cut that time by 800%, which is amazing. And in 15 to 30 minutes, he could do that same acre. It's a substantial time saving, but just as important is the fact that it does a far superior job. It lays the onion in place, there's no bunching, and there's very little dirt. The other effect of this is that it paves the way for the onion harvester to perform more efficiency, doing a faster, cleaner job. Ken stayed busy for about 3 years building these machines, so as to keep up with the customer demand. And also to mention, he was very involved in the Oswego County Vegetable Growers Improvement Association, also the Committee on the Cornell Cooperative Extension. That pretty much, sums up the Sheldons. The only Sheldon left on the Whitaker Road is Phil. All the rest have moved away. I'm very pleased with the people's cooperation. I'm delighted to see you folks here tonight. I thank you very much. And Phil and Mary and I'd be delighted if people have some stories about our family.
I'd like Bill Hogan.
Okay.
Tell you what happened.
Well, I just mentioned the fact that Kenny developed or invented a diving helmet where you could put this helmet on your head and you got air from a tire pump, which I don't think was blowing up a tire. But I was over to Patty Lake one day and Ken had it with him and he wanted to volunteer. So being stupid enough, I said, I'll take a shot at it. And I'm lucky, I'm still here, I think. Anyway, it did work.
Oh,
It
wow.
was just, it looked like a pail you put over your head, the glass and everything on it. A regular diving helmet.
Oh, wow.
And it did work, but Patty Lake was treacherous, whether you had a diving helmet on or you're just in there water.
Anybody else like to share? We'd be delighted.
How about the machine that the lettuce, the men, 3 on one side or 2 on the other?
Oh, yeah,
and
you
they
made
lay
a-
on their stomach,
He made a
and they
machine.
cut the lettuce, and it went onto the conveyor,
Oh, yeah.
and went right into the washing and the crate.
Yeah, he made a, they call it a mule train. It's a very slow-moving machine. And you'd have 4 men out front, you know, cutting the lettuce, put it on conveyors, it would come up. And then the people up on the machine would pack it, and then from there it'd go back to a wagon. But,
Don't you have one of those pictures
I
here?
believe I brought it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I think it's over there, yeah.
The onion undercutter was really, the concept he came up with, I tell you, was really amazing, the difference it made. Because the old style, think of a flat bar, a flat stock, and pointed in the front, where it would go under the onions. It was mounted on a frame, it would go underneath the onions to deroot them. Well, you wouldn't go 15 feet, and it would bunch up. Sometimes, like I say, sometimes it would take 4 hours to do an acre, plus a lot of work. You're constantly getting off the machine and cleaning it out. Well, Ken come up with this idea to use a rotating bar, a square, 1.5-inch square bar.
Back.
Did I go past it?
Yeah, two back.
No.
That's Joby's storage, right? Yeah, that's Joby's storage.
That's for Rito.
Yeah.
Previous. Is that it?
No, that's a harvester.
Oh, okay.
Before
Sorry.
you can harvest them, you have to pull the onions so they lay down and the tops dry. Because the harvesting machine will not work properly without the tops being dry.
There's his machine shop.
Yeah,
So that old method, as I say, was constantly plugging up. It was just a nuisance. Ken's machine used a square bar, 1.5-inch square bar. It went under the onions, but it was powered, so the bar rotated backwards. And so as it was going forward, it would impel the onions, so it never plugged.
Dick Gear's truck.
This guy,
Stand on the truck?
that's Mr. Gears right there.
What was interesting, Phil, is he would draw these things during dinner time.
I know.
I wish I had the papers he would draw, the equipment
stand
he
up,
would
Mary,
make.
so they can hear.
Amazing.
No,
This
no.
is Ken's daughter, Mary, his baby girl.
I was the surprise. But every meal, especially Monday through Thursday, you know, at night, he would have a notebook on the table and he would be drawing what he wanted to build. And it was interesting. I learned a lot, you know. You don't think you're learning, but you do.
Does
And,
Pete have them?
I don't think so, my brother. I have a brother in Florida, Pete, and my sister Lorraine is also in Florida. But I was 10 years later, and so I had a little different growing up than they did. But I even got to paint some of that new machinery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go down after school and paint, put me right to
Sure.
work. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I
so,
babysat Lorraine and Peter before your time.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Well, Gracie too. Gracie right here, Bonacorsi. She's like another mom to me.
They were going out to the, I think it was Betty Gilbert, Floral Gilbert's wedding. And Jane had a great big picture hat, it was gorgeous. She was dressed ready to go, and he'd been, come on, come on, come on, come on. And she went, and her was her hat. She couldn't find her hat. And he slid it down behind the armoire or whatever it was, and she was wild. It was a gorgeous hat that she kept saying, well, it cost this much, and it's part of my outfit and everything. I had never seen two people do that.
Oh, I did. But then there's the Sheldon dressing too, the salad dressing. That's
Oh, yes.
still a secret.
Oh, I don't know how to make it. I had the recipe, I gave it to Phil, so they're gonna work on that. She had that, and I was telling him tonight, she and my Aunt Jane, Mary's mother, and my mother were the only ones that could make the caramel sauce for our Thanksgiving
Pudding.
which wasn't a pudding. No, it was bread.
Bread.
Joanne.
Yeah, oh, yes,
Mary's mother used to play the accordion.
yes, she
And
did.
I think she played with the Andrews sisters before she met your father.
Well, she was in vaudeville,
Yes,
so
Yes.
famous. She played the accordion.
they love to dance. That's why they fell in love. They both love to dance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I remember her saying, she said she was telling my sisters and I, this was in many, many later years, and she was living in St. Luke's. And one of my prerequisites for my boyfriend was they had to dance. And when my sisters go, well, did Uncle Ken dance? Yes! And they did, they enjoyed it.
And they danced every day in the kitchen. We had a little 45 record player, and we danced every day.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a nice memory.
It is. Oh, that's a great memory.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why we all love to
She didn't work in
dance.
the dryer because she had gorgeous nails.
No, but she worked in the office.
Oh, yeah.
She ran that office
She did.
for I don't know how many years, but I remember if we went to visit, we'd go down to see Uncle Kenny in the shop, and Aunt Jane would be in the office.
Mm-hmm.
When your mother was in college, I went to work on Mason Cassie's farm with some men to take corn. Can't imagine. In today's world, I'd have been, I don't know what. Anyway, I worked with 3 or 4 guys suckering corn. And your mother had me come into the kitchen. She knew I didn't belong out there with those guys.
That didn't happen with me.
Did you push on the bumper?
Not the muck, the dairy farm, and my father grew lots of corn. And I picked lots of corn, sweet corn. Joanne, before you go to work, your brothers and you are going down, and I need 600 dozen ears of corn before 11. And if you know what corn's like in August, you came back up soaked. Absolutely soaked. Yeah. Yes.
Mary's brother, Peter, older brother, used to be a mechanic and fly with the Blue Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were gonna come to Syracuse last week, but they had an accident. They couldn't
Yeah.
come. But he was with them, he went all over the world.
He never came home.
No.
No, he didn't.
And the last time he was home, he kind of said, oh, you know what, I should have stayed here. And I said, no. No, you and Dad were like, no, it wouldn't work. Well,
He was a
anyway.
big boy, big fellow. He was a big, handsome cat.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, I'd like to say a special thanks to Betty
Oh,
Atkins.
she's been a big help.
Without her, this would not have been possible. And of course, Joanne, I think you did a terrific job.